Ricky Ditzel, welcome to Security Halt podcast. How's it going, man?
It's going well, dude. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing great. Moving at a million miles per hour as usual, but I have to admit I have been stalking soft to SOM for years now. It's the warrant officer in me that sees the potential in every 18 Delta to be a PA, to be a doctor, to be a healer, and I see that we still have a shortage in so many professions, and I'm like, we have to get these guys on. Like, I have to get them on just so I can have them share what they're doing and explain why medicine should be at least something you consider if you're already a warrior healer about to get out of the military. It's something that I'm so happy and so proud to see some of my friends, shout out to you, Brandon, that have taken that responsibility. They're in school right now, and seeing him in that white coat, bro, talk about like proud brother moment of like, man, you're chasing your dream, you're doing it, you're going to get out there into this world where you can actually help change and help individuals the way they're living their lives, how they can be healthier, how can they thrive and recover. And I think that today, man, like I need to hear not only the story of Soft Assam, but your story and how you got involved.
For sure, dude. No, I really appreciate it. We were hyped when we got in contact with you, and our operations director Zach LeBlanc sent the screenshot, and everybody was super pumped. So thanks for making time. Thanks for sending the invite to even have us on the show.
Absolutely, man. Like when I see guys are building something for the brothers, immediately I'm like, yes, this needs to be highlighted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
So tell us, man, what got you into this?
Yeah, so when I was on active duty, I was a flight medic with the 160th. So
Hell yeah.
um, loved what I did. Our job over there was to be, expert disaster managers, planners, and then medics on the back of that aircraft, so that you guys could do what you did and have a security knowing that once you handed off your friends, your comrades, that you didn't have to question what you were doing. So I really loved that job, loved what I was doing, and from years of being in the military, like starting off in the 82nd and then ending up at 160th, I always had great doctors I worked with, and periodically they pulled me aside and say like, "Hey, what do you think about for the future? Like, someday this does end, no matter if you do it for 20, if you do it for 10 or 2 or 4, whatever." And and you seem to like have a knack for this medicine thing. So over time, just like I'm really lucky to have mentors who are like, "You should really think about this doctor thing." So it kind of set the seed of taking it seriously. I was inspired by medicine because my older brother, he had a lot of brain trauma as a child, cerebral palsy and
Mm,
such, and pediatric neurosurgeons did an incredible job to keep him alive. And so I've always been interested in medicine. Obviously, went the medic route, and then the doctor thing got taken seriously, I'd say, when those active duty mentors started getting involved. So I got in 2020. Myself and other folks, we helped run and build the Orion F. Larkin Field Hospital up in New York City. And we did that for a little while, did a lot of COVID care. A couple of us did some COVID airway teams. And then from there, I got into a post-bac program to finish my pre-med stuff because I had a disaster management degree from active duty. I didn't have pre-med done. So
hmm
did this 18-month program. And during that program, it was like, man, I have advisors. I got these medical advisors. I got people sending me deadlines like, this is when you need to submit this essay. This is when you need to submit that essay. This is what the MCAT looks like. This is how you study for the MCAT. And I was like, this is great. We're paying, luckily for GI benefits, but this is an expensive program to have access to all this. And without this, I don't know if I'd know how to navigate the system. So at that same time, a couple people that I'm really close friends with were also studying for the medical school admissions test for the MCAT. And we got, just like most soft stuff, we got in a group chat. We started talking about how I was studying for the MCAT, they were studying for the MCAT, what my advisors were saying, what their advisors were saying, etc. And the group chat went from 5 dudes to 10 dudes, then 10 dudes turned to 15 dudes. And we started being like, you know, kind of have something here. Here's like 15 guys from the community who all want to be doctors. And we're doing interview prep. We're reading their essays. We're giving them deadlines. We're telling them when their stuff needs to be submitted. And it kind of spiraled from there. It was like, if we want this to matter, if we want to be able to make an actual impact, sure, we can continue the group chat model and talk about and just help each other out. But if we want to have some legitimacy, we need to file and form a 501c3, make this a nonprofit organization, because there's no desire to do this for profit. Obviously, we want to help the guys out. We don't want to charge them. We want to give it to them. So want the nonprofit route. I'm lucky to be the chairman and co-founder of the organization. We have about 5 co-founders because it's that original 5 group chat. all volunteer organization. And we just officially turned 2 a couple days ago, 2 years old. We did it for a whole year before we incorporated to test it out, make sure we had something here. But yeah, now, so over 2 years now, we have 40 scholars. That's what we refer to our folks who are in our nonprofit as scholars. We've gotten about 30 of them in the medical school. We have the next 10 getting ready to apply, and then we'll onboard the next 10 in the next couple months. The application cycle will open for SOF to SOM.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
like
awesome.
the down and dirty, my story plus the origin story of SOF to
Yeah.
SOM. And, the biggest thing that really convinced me and us to want to incorporate, and I think this is probably one of the most important things, was Zach, who you talked to. We were going over his application, and in medical school, you can submit 15 resume bullets, and they have to be a variety of things. And Zach was going to apply with like eight resume bullets. And I was like, man, what are you doing, dude? Like you're dead in the water. So I did a study with West Virginia University. We looked at all their applicants. Statistically significant. We found it statistically significant that if you had 12 or more resume bullets on your application, that you had a higher chance of getting into medical school. So from the jump, he was already fighting the bad fight. And we got on a Zoom call and we went about his military career. And I was like, hey man, you're 18 Delta. Where were you at this year? Oh, I was here. Oh, so you're on that trip. Yeah, I was on that trip. Well, weren't you the Delta that took care of so-and-so? Yeah, I was. Okay, where's that experience? That's one of a kind experience. Well, I don't want to sell my buddies out. Okay, I understand that. Well, that's just what we were supposed to do. That's our job. Okay. My team sergeant had it way worse than I did. It wasn't that crazy. Okay. Well, man, we can talk about this without talking about your buddy or selling them out. We can talk about the experience without trying to make you seem like a war hero. We can talk about the emotion you felt, the decision-making process you went through. How did you train properly to have the confidence to perform surgery by yourself as a medic? How do we talk about that so that it's believable? Because we fought that fight with academia before too. They don't believe our guys' stories. And the Zoom call turned to a 3-hour meeting. And so it was more of a vent session, therapy session, and then an application building session. And we turned that dude's application to 15 resume bullets, and now he's a second-year medical student accepted into an accelerated emergency medicine pathway. So that's what really convinced me that we needed to incorporate, and we've seen it time and time again when we've gotten scholars in, when they build their resumes initially, 8, 9 bullet points, 11 bullet points, and it's the same stories.
Yeah. We often get told as Green Berets that we're the quiet professionals.
Yep.
But on the outside, I think this is what every SOF professional, from 160th to Ranger Regiment to SEAL, everybody becomes a silent professional. They don't want to talk about it when it comes across the professional frameworks of applying to a program. But what you just described is exactly why you have to understand the importance of crafting the right narrative, the right resume that speaks to your skill set. Otherwise, it's not only a disservice to you, but it's a disservice to every other service member with your background that comes after you. Because just like you said, some of the people in these, that are looking through the applications, they don't understand that these stories are real. They don't understand the gravity of what it means to be a medical professional in combat, and they just think it's Hollywood. Oh, this guy's just making it up. When the reality is, like, I know my 18 Deltas have done some amazing things in combat, kept somebody alive that had a bullet in their friggin' head at nighttime in the back of a friggin' CH-47. That's insane. That is what our medical professionals in the SOF world are able to do, is some of the most magnificent. That's why they say, like, they deserve the ability to dream and dream big. And creating this endeavor, like, in your own, with your own experience, like, how daunting did it seem at first? Like, oh, fuck, who am I to create this program for others like me?
The idea of being involved in a nonprofit wasn't the daunting part. I was fortunate to be a director in a nonprofit previously for many years, and I had kind of ran the education department of that nonprofit. So I had already helped folks get into medical school, PA school, business school. We've edited PhD theses. Like it was kind of, which I had no right doing, but it was like, hey man, yeah, sure, we'll help you out. But so I had like the trust that I knew from that experience and the folks I worked with over there that I could at least had some structure, some idea.
Yeah.
The daunting part was like, if we're going to incorporate, then we're committing not to a 1 year project, not to a 2 year goal. And when the dopamine wears off, we're going to disband this thing. We're setting 10-year goals, and then we'll reevaluate, at 10 years and see where guys want to be with their position and organization. So I think that was the daunting part initially, was to say, this isn't just a dopamine high. We're committing to running a business, and we're going to have a brand that stands for something. And here's the challenges and the culture that we're going to set and the challenges we're going to face. We don't just take medics. I think that's probably a misconception, that when you see the brand, it's soft medics to school of medicine. We have ground force commanders, we have boat guys, we have anything. As long as USASOC or USASOCOM says that you are soft and you went through a selection process, you're eligible for us.
That's right. Even you, 18 Bravos. I checked.
Yes,
even you, 18 Bravos.
Yes, we have them. We have Ranger, platoon leaders who are majors and such now. And it's the same. We helped one guy. He was a Ranger captain, get into medical school, and he's at a wonderful medical school. He's at one of the top medical schools in the country. And we had the same challenge, was, how do you convey to a medical school what it's like to be responsible for 150, 200 Rangers, like fully responsible for their lives? How do we tell that story? How do we get guys like him to be vulnerable and talk about what it was like to lose a Ranger and to be the one who was in charge of that? The art of storytelling is so important in any career endeavor, but for our community, especially, it's how can we humbly tell these stories so that the individual doesn't feel like they're selling anybody out, they're not playing a character, they're not lying, but that they also get the message across so that the person reading the paperwork can understand it. Because understanding the military is so complicated. So, there's folks in the military that understand the military. There's people in SOF that don't know about their SOF units. So how can I get a civilian academic to, one, have any idea what the military is, two, understand special forces, because they think everything's special forces, so then add on Ranger or civil affairs or boat guy or whatever, and then get them to have the right image in their head as they're reading this 4-sentence bullet point in this person's application, so that it matters. And that's a good challenge.
Yeah. It's important to understand that we often think of this path to medical school as just being about chemistry, bio, and checking the blocks for all these pre-requirements. But the truth is, within all this application is, you're right, there's storytelling. There's telling a bunch of people that you may not meet face to face ever, who you are, what you've done, and how to sell that. And I think that speaks to what a lot of us have a hard time dealing with on the outside. How do I convey to somebody what I did? I just lived it. For a majority of people, like, I just lived it for 10, 15 years, 20 years. But how do I put this into actual words that can be of benefit to me in a resume, in an application? And that's where I think more guys need something like this, a program that provides them not only the framework for applying, but the understanding that you have to sell yourself. That's something that we never had to do. It's all about performance metrics of like, I got to do these push-ups. I got to drag this thing. And then I got to be really good at doing my job as a team guy or a boat guy or somebody in civil affairs. Like that's how I get to sell myself. On the outside, no, you have to speak to what you've done and you have to articulate it. And that's a challenge, man. And when you're coaching these individuals, how has that been, like seeing them like get to the point where they're like kicking confidently? Because it's everybody. It's not just an E7 guy. Like you said, it's a major, a captain, officers that arguably I would say have the hardest time selling themselves because they're always selling the mission and the men.
They struggle a lot. It's awesome to see the breakthrough happen. Is always super exciting to see the writing improve, to see the walls come down a little bit, to see these dudes open up about stuff they've never talked about. And then they're willing to put some of it on application, or to see them. Really, the other thing too is showing that they're more than just the title of the job they did in the military. So, a lot of our guys, when they write their personal statements, we want them to tell their story to medicine and
Yeah.
not just tell the war story. And so it's really a privilege to read a lot of these guys' real stories and not just their military stories. So what's the whole thing look like? That's probably my favorite part, is really learning who these guys are beyond the color of their hat. And that's been a really incredible experience. So
Yeah. And going back to that, the impossible dream of going to medical school, like we see it on ER, we see it on it seems like every other year there's a new TV show depicting what it's like to be a doctor, but it's not as sexy as it seems.
uh,
Before you even get there, there's a lot of work. And explain to us what that pipeline really looks like for, the basic guy that maybe all he has, if he's lucky, if he's been working a little bit, all he has is that bachelor's degree. Like, what does
yeah,
that
yeah.
pipeline look like?
So traditionally, and now a lot of medical schools don't require prerequisites. A lot of them will require, they call them competencies. So
Mm,
the gateway right now is still the medical school admissions test, which is the MCAT. And you can think about the MCAT like the academic version for medical school is the 12-mile ruck march. And the challenge is that the good dude system can't apply when there's an MCAT and a GPA. And there's statistics that really prove it. The higher that MCAT score is, the higher that GPA is, the higher your percentage of getting into medical school is. And it just is what it is. So that pipeline looks like writing a personal statement, having your MCAT score complete, or MCAT complete with your score back, um, having all your transcripts, a couple letters of recommendation, usually from a physician, and then like a science faculty member to talk about your skill set in science and how you were as a person. And then you have to fill out the common application. So if you're going to MD schools, so allopathic schools, there's one application, unless it's Texas. Texas has their own application system. And then if it's doctor of osteopathic medicine, DO school, then they have their own application system. So application is pretty similar across the board. Personal statement with work and activities experiences, which is that resume I was referring to. Then after that, medical schools will send you their secondary applications, and that could be anywhere from 3 to 10 essays per school that you're writing. So it's a lot of writing. It's a brutal process. Studying for the MCAT, you should take around 6 months to do it, 4 to 6 months to study for that MCAT. If you haven't done a science class in a long time, it should probably take longer than 4 months to study for the MCAT.
yeah.
And yeah, that's the gate. The MCAT is what keeps people out for sure.
Yeah. And when you look at the MCAT, if you just Google MCAT, you're going to get a lot of hits for sites that prep you for the MCAT
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
lot of money, for a
for a lot of
lot
money.
of fucking money, two,
Oh yeah,
$3,000 just for like the basic plan. But if you want a
yeah,
one-on-one coach, we'll get you in there for 5,000. It's like, uh, it's insane. It's
it is
ridiculous.
insane.
And I
Yeah,
don't
the
think
application
it's,
cycle is
yeah.
like 10 G's, man.
Ah,
All in all, like application cost plus prep plus
fuck.
secondary essays, because the secondaries usually cost $100 a submission.
Ooh. And does the
Oh
GI
yeah,
Bill cover any of that? Does it cover?
for the application, no.
Ooh.
You can get fee assistance program if you're under a certain amount of income. Usually, our folks who are applying an active duty uh, qualify for that because of reasons. But so they'll qualify for those fee assistance programs, and you can waive your application fee and your secondary application costs. But the MCAT, no.
Mm,
That test I think is $350 for
yeah.
just to sit for the test, if I remember correctly.
And then do you guys do actual, do you guys guide the applicants through the process and provide the tutoring, or to provide the assistance to secure tutoring from a, third party?
Yeah, we do all the above. So we have a partner that is a really good testing company that we have a discount for. So right now we do a needs-based assessment. So
Mm,
because folks come with us at all different levels of their prep. So some folks just want the question bank from UWorld. So we'll buy them that UWorld question bank. Some folks want one-on-one tutoring. So we'll buy them so many hours of one-on-one tutoring.
nice.
And then others want the whole package because they really need the help. So we'll get them the UWorld, the one-on-one tutoring, and the test prep service,
Damn.
where they go to like they have assignments at home, and then they have like a weekly group session. And then that also comes with all their practice tests. And so we try to spend right now on average $3,000 to $5,000 a person. There's other goals that we have, and we need a lot of help with funding to make it there. But we want to pay for things like childcare while these guys are studying. We want to have a grant fund, so when folks need to go to a conference and say their school's not funding them to go to that conference for professional development, they can reach out to us and we can pay for those fees, whether it's a hotel, the conference fee, or the flight, or all the above if we have enough money. But right now we focus a lot of our effort in getting them into the program. So 3,000 to 5,000 on just the pre-med part. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me.
That's nuts. Doesn't stop either.
So fundraising is constantly ongoing.
Fundraising is constantly ongoing. Yeah. Yeah. If anybody out there wants to sponsor these scholars, let us know.
Yeah. And
let us know.
When it comes to like the academia side of the house, like how have you been able to forge partnerships with some of the schools, and have they seen the benefit of allowing our service members and men and women to, not only apply, obviously, certainly we don't want somebody to make it easier, but see benefit of having individuals coming through from this background?
Yeah, that's been incredibly exciting. So that was probably my biggest goal when we started Soft SOM initially, was like, can we be that nonprofit that has partnerships with major universities that give our guys interviews? And we've achieved that with a lot of schools, both MD and DO. Couple of them we don't have press release rights, so I can't disclose those ones, but the rest we do have media agreements with. So like Hofstra University, Zucker and Donald, Zucker and Barbara School of Medicine out in Long Island. Great medical school, top 20 medical school. We have an interview agreement with them that because we have our own selection assessment program at Soft SOM that our guys go through before they get brought on as scholars, and then our pipeline exists to get them successful. They set the parameters for us of what their school wants. And then if our scholars achieve such goals, then they can have an interview with that school.
Damn,
and so we have that with several schools, all different rankings, and it all over the country, and it's just continuing to grow. And I got to tell you, those conversations were easier than you thought, but it's because of all the prep work we do beforehand to validate these folks and verify who they are. And then we tell them the value that they bring to their campuses. Like we're a little strict right now. We don't take everybody, so you have to apply to Soft SOM, and we have an assessment selection program that is proprietary, and it's very objective. It's extremely objective, then gets reviewed by operational psychs to make sure that it remains objective, and they give us feedback on it. Yes. And so it gets tweaked as necessary, and we have a team that is trained to deliver this assessment. So it's not just anybody who's available that day. We have a whole team that's read onto this little program, and the feedback is very objective. And so then you become a scholar. Then we put in all the work. Plus, to apply, you have to have character witness. You have to tell us who's referencing you from the community. We contact those people from the community. We ask other folks about you. So what we're looking for is, we're not just trying to make doctors. What we're really trying to do here is really enhance the American healthcare system. And there's a lot of issues in the American healthcare system from a leadership perspective. So how do I find the best leaders possible from our community that want to get into the American healthcare system and do something about it? Whether that's practicing in a rural clinic, being the best pediatrician you can be, going into policy work, whatever your goal is, we don't care. OBGYN, we'll support any of those goals. But you have to agree to us that you're going to give back to our organization by mentoring the next generation, and then by being impactful on the medical campuses that you go to. And so when we talk to the universities, that's the commitment we give to them, is that the people that have these linkage programs, if they activate and they use it and they come to your school, they're committing to being a leader on your campus in a number of ways. And that's been really awesome to see. Right now, 4 or 5 of our scholars are class presidents for their medical schools. We have folks who have started military interest groups. We have folks who have led free healthcare clinics, wilderness medicine trips. They're doing exactly what you expect them to do. They get to the campus, they see something, they identify it, they get to work, and they make an impact. We have folks who are on the admissions committees at medical schools now, advocating for veterans, all veterans. Soft to SOM, while we're niche and we focus on our guys, our advocacy side is for all veterans in medical school. So the data from veterans in med school is horrible. It's less than 0.01%
Wow.
across the nation. Most medical schools accept one veteran per cycle. It's almost statistically better to say you're not a veteran when you're applying based on that data. But I don't think you should hide it. I think you should put it out there.
Damn, Ricky, you're playing 4D chess, my man. Like this.
Oh, that's the goal. That's what we do, man.
Are you sure you weren't a Green Beret? Because this seems a lot like by with and through.
By with and through is the model, baby.
Flood it. Get it in there.
Yes.
Dude,
shadow governments.
Yeah. That's uniquely a beautiful thing that I've seen within our soft guys that are getting involved in the space in the nonprofit world. They're not just trying. The mission statement at first can seem very simplistic, but when you take a peek behind the curtains, it's deeper. There's a big move to make it a very complex and self-feeding mechanism to help others and continue to grow it to help others. And it's like having little underground and support cell structures. They're like, these guys aren't just going in there to be students. They're going to be leaders. Mm-hmm. They're going to talk about veteran issues. They're going to talk about being a good individual, help promote good ideas and change the way things are being done. And that's ultimately going to lead to change within our healthcare administration system. Exactly. Because we see it everywhere where there aren't enough veterans. We see it within our government. We see it in the local community. We're better for having veteran voices in these places. And it's the time. Now is the friggin' time to start. If you can help, if you can be part of this initiative, get involved. Don't get scared. Even if it's just simple as donating, getting involved and by providing resources, that's huge. Like in your own journey, looking at where you started with this, like where do you see it growing?
Oh man, where do I see Soft to SOM growing? I have some thoughts. One thing that really excites me is when you close your eyes and you think about 10 years from now, if we stay at 10 per cycle, it's 100 new soft physicians in 10 years. There's no network that exists right now, tight-knit network that you can access 100 soft physicians across all different specialties, know where they're at in the world and know what universities they work at. I think that is really powerful. And it's really powerful for patients. I think it's really powerful for guys who want to become doctors, other types of medical professions. But what really excites me is that when Soft to SOM is built more and we have our physician network established, what we can give back to the community at large, whether our guy, because we have folks who are going to practice active duty, we have folks in the reserves and the guards still are going to practice that way, and we have folks who are full civilian. So when, I'm sure someone in Soft to SOM will be an OBGYN one day, and there's going to be a veteran whose wife is going through something, and they're going to call who they trust first. To have the ability for them to reach out to us, and then we can pair them with somebody from the community who gets it and is in that specialty of choice, I think is really, really exciting. The other thing in the future that I'm excited about is take that 100 number again, multiply that by an average 10 years of experience, call it 10 years of soft experience. You have 1,000 years of leadership experience. What can we do with healthcare leadership training with that? Because there's really no good healthcare leadership out there. It's not part of any pipeline. You go to medical school, there's no BLC, ALC, SEAL training. There's no leadership development courses. You get to residency, there's no leadership development courses within your residency. It's mirror the activity above you, or decide that you didn't like the way it was done to you, so you try and change it. So can we take our network and years of experience and create something that would be a leadership pipeline for healthcare executives or physicians in general? It's kind of endless, but those are two of our biggest goals right now, is that 10-year plan of having 100 new soft physicians, seeing where they're at in the world and being able to harness that capability and to give back to the country and to our service members.
Yeah, continued service, man. That's something that never gets talked about at TAP. This should be something that's provided as a resource and and a path for your future. And
Mhm.
it's a crime. It's a crime that we're not talking about this and promoting this program in TAP. And I know for a fact that there's a need for it. In my own friend group, I have guys right now that are in medical school because somebody simply believed in them.
Yep.
And watching them go through the process without soft to SOM, like, yeah, it was difficult. Like I've
Yeah.
seen friends that struggled and like, man, this is incredibly hard. It's difficult, but they find one or two people that can walk them through, and they bounce around, they find their path. If we streamline the process, if we put them in a room in a chat with Ricky and give them like the no bullshit step one to completion process and maybe a PowerPoint like we're used to, showing them
Yeah.
how they can achieve their
Yeah.
dream. Like, how many more guys can we get through the system? Can we get in there? Because, like, man, like, I have seen some of the most remarkable individuals from that medical background go on to do great things, but it wasn't their calling. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
true shame that I don't want anybody to go through. You should go into your next endeavor knowing without a doubt that it's absolutely your calling. And I think a lot of guys are missing that because they don't see soft to SOM in front of them when they're going through a transition program. Have you guys been able to integrate or talk with anybody at a base, or be able to put yourselves within like the at least at the group level, for them to be like, hey, when you got 18 deltas, or anybody within the background or getting out, like, let them know about this program?
Yeah, we have our stuff's over at the SOCM refresher course right now,
Oh,
which has been
nice.
which has
Hell
been
yeah.
really awesome. So, and then we have a SOCM cadre who like tells all the new SOCM students about us every time we're like in process with them, which is really cool. Um, so shout out to him. But so SOCMist has been a big hit. Um, we have a couple of the units with their internal transition pipelines where our
Yep.
stuff is at, like our brochures and such. We haven't been able to hit. We haven't tried to hit like tap directly. Maybe that's something we should target. Just have brochures and stuff there. Why not? Um, but yeah, it's mostly unit internal right now, and then the
Yep.
SOCM schoolhouse. The other thing I want to shout out besides soft to SOM is it would be wrong of me not to mention Service to Schools, who's doing incredible work in this
Yeah.
space too. Service Schools helped me out when I was applying just to be able to talk to veterans. So one thing we do, just like some of the selection courses, is we'll never send you away empty-handed. So if you're not selected to be a soft to SOM scholar, you're not just going to be like, hey, good luck, buddy. We're going to arm you with tools to be successful. We're still going to give you documentation for how to execute. And then we always refer our guys to Service to Schools. And the reason is because Service Schools has a beautiful Slack chat for medical. You get in that Slack, and it is an open market mentorship thing. So they don't do any financial funding right now, from my understanding. But if you go on Service to Schools and you're like, hey, I need someone to review my personal statement, you'll get 50 different dudes and ready to read your personal statement and give you feedback
Yep.
on your medical school application. So we're big fans of what they do. I'm grateful for the help they gave me, but yeah, if you don't get selected for us, we'll always get back. And on your point about PowerPoints, we tried several models in the beginning. It was like, do we get one-on-one meetings? Do we do this? And our vice chairman, Justin Anderson, was like, I'm going to create a start here document. I guarantee if I just create one document, these guys will take it and execute. Dude, that was a game changer. Like, we onboard these guys. We say, here's the link for the start here document. Follow it from top to bottom, and then and rock and roll, dude. And these guys freaking execute, man.
It's
It
like
is
the
awesome.
whiteboard. It's like the
It
whiteboard,
is.
man.
It's
Like, it's
crazy.
I when I started my own entrepreneurial endeavors, I didn't know everything can come at you so fast when you decide you're like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna lean into this. I'm gonna try to make it happen. And the first thing I did was get like several whiteboards to like whiteboard out what
Yeah.
I wanted to do. Then that's fall back on what you
Magic.
know. Fall back on your strength. Like, look, I get it. We made fun of PowerPoint. We made fun of having all these documents, but sometimes you need that linear path of like, check the box, move down. Did you succeed here? Yes. Move on to this. Did something go wrong? Go back to this step. Like, go use the tools you already have. Like, we forget that we have
Absolutely.
everything. Like, and when you're chasing this impossible dream, reflect back on every other impossible dream that you already conquered. Like
Yeah.
becoming a medic in 160th, like that's not fucking easy. Like going
Right.
in
Right.
through SEAL training, going through buds, going
Not
through
easy.
RIT, not easy. None of this shit was easy.
No.
So why won't you at least believe in yourself to go to medical school? At least play around with the idea. At least look
Yeah.
at what it would take. Maybe some of the limiting factors will be too much. Brick and mortar schools can be a big thing for people when they're already out and they relocated to an area. But look, search, look for every other option. Like that's one of the things I talked through for a couple of friends. Like, oh, there's not a school that I'd want to go to that's nearby. I'm like, are you sure? Have you Googled? Just Google it. See what's around. See what's available. What you would be
Did you
willing
want
to
to live in
commute.
Fayetteville?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably not. Did you want that green hat? You
Yep.
did. Was it worth it? Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like
So it's
it's
temporary.
yeah, it's one of those things like you just have to sit down and do the core analysis. Figure it
Yep.
out. Like you'll be surprised. You'll walk through the process. You'll be pleasantly surprised when you realize that if you game it, if you just go through and do what you already did on your detachment, on your team for planning, and walk through, because it's a dream, man. Start living the dream. And when you realize I'm really passionate about this, take the actionable steps.
Yeah.
If you're already in the Washington area, how you can literally walk out and throw a stick and hit a medical school. Like
Yeah.
there's a few right
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
Like be willing to dream.
And we've helped guys stay in the state because of, spousal issues, child
Yeah.
issues, and we help them communicate with the schools. Like, I know you can't give preference, however, I really can't leave this state, and here's my reasons why. And we don't think we can do that, and we assume the medical schools won't respond to that, but the typical applicant to medical school is young and single, so they don't usually have to deal with it. But when they have someone who comes to them professionally and says, "Hey, my spouse does X, Y, and Z. We have
Yeah.
stability. I have a child. They're in daycare here. What do I need to do to be at your university? And I'm going to commit." And we've had some good results with that. They really respect it. So, and if you need to be region specific, you just got to get higher stats. That's your lymphatic is just work really hard on that MCAT. The MCAT will open that door for you. Um,
Yeah.
I think that,
And Ricky, I want to bounce back to you and your personal journey right now. Just reflecting, like we can get lost when we pivot into the civilian world. Did you
oh yeah,
find yourself struggling with that identity and that purpose? And if you did soft to SOM and building this kind of give you that identity and purpose back?
yeah. That's a really good question. The big answer is yes. So, um, when I first got out in April, it was basically like being on deployment all over again. So I thought I was out of the military, and I thought I had figured my stuff out, and I was sadly mistaken. So, we're running this field hospital. It's all soft folks. I'm living out of a hotel in a backpack, very normal circumstance. We're working 20 hours a day. It was awesome. Then I do this airway team thing. Then I take a contract with a production company, end up working on a mental health docu-series as like, the health and safety supervisor, traveling all over the country. We got shoots going on internationally. So I'm doing planning for, the States and Europe and countries in Africa. And it was like nothing changed, except I was getting paid a lot better to do it, to be fully honest. And then when I got into Columbia University to do my post-bac, and I started at Columbia, then the cracks got
Mm,
exposed and it crumbled bad. And basically what happened was I was so used to the effort that I put in paying off. And I
mm,
wasn't used to doing poorly. It had been a long time since I had done something poorly. Like, okay, you need me to ruck 12 miles. You want me to do it in sub 3. Okay, let me get in, I'll get it sub 230. I'll get sub 240. You need me to run 5 miles. I'll get it under sub 35. You need me to be the best medic. I'll outstudy anybody that needs to study, and I'll come in super prepared, right? We have these mentalities. And when we can do that and succeed, we create that loop. When I got to
yeah.
Columbia, my highest science I'd ever taken was in high school back, that had to be like 7 years, 8 years, well, 10 years before I went to Columbia, or 8 years, was marine biology, right? So like I thought I understood science. I did this SOCA medic stuff. I thought I could do science. Well, then I'm in physics one at Columbia, and my professor is the director of CERN. The had and I'm like, and his first briefing is like, hey, I expect you to get a 50% on my exams. That would be considered an average and be a good score if you got a 50. And my brain could not wrap around like getting a 50 on something. And I was like, I'm not gonna get a fucking 50. Pardon my language. I'm like, I'm gonna crush. I'll
Yeah.
study 12 hours a day. So, I had, I was doing the 50 on, 10 off model. I would study for 50 minutes, take 10-minute break, and I did that. And next thing I know, I'm doing that like 10 hours a day, and I'm getting crushed academically. I'm getting like the exams would be like 16 questions, and I'd be getting like 4 correct instead of 8 correct. I'd be getting 5 questions out of 16, and that being like a C or a B sometimes, by the way, too. Like the
Oh.
curve was so crazy. And so I'd be in physics one, chem one, calculus. I was taking 4 classes at a time because I had to for GI Bill.
Yeah.
And the fraud feeling set in real fast. I went from being a well-known, I know that sounds really egotistical, but I went from being like a decently well-known medic, had a good reputation and doing well medically, and now I'm like doing really quote unquote bad at Columbia. And I'm holding like a 3.3, 3.4 at the time, and I was expecting to be like a 3.75 guy. And that was a big identity crisis. That I started to feel like a fraud. I remember that being like the loop that was in my head, like, you're a fucking fraud, dude. Like, you were supposed to get out, you were supposed to crush, and then you're gonna go become a doctor, fill the prophecy, man. Like,
Yeah.
do what you were expected to do. And no, dude, that was bad. I was in Manhattan, didn't have a lot of friends. My classmates, I hadn't mingled super well with them, whether that's some of my fault, their fault. I didn't have like a good support structure out in New York City. And it just was really bad when I was doing really bad academically. So definitely went through the identity crisis thing, started to be like, who the hell am I type thing.
Yeah.
Am I even going to get into medical school at this point? You were supposed to be the guy, which doesn't exist. And just ended up having to get real honest with the homies and had to create almost like they call it, you call it like a safety team. Like you get a
Yeah.
group chat of the homies you trust, and you just start getting honest and you say, hey man, I don't feel good today. Don't know why, but I'm okay. And then that's all. That's it. And so we started doing that with like 2 of my good friends, and that helped a ton. And then just talking to people you really trust and being like, hey dude, like, you might just not be this scientific academic. Are you working really hard? Yes. Are you meeting with TAs? Yes, I was. Are you going to teaching hours with the professors? I was. Were you meeting with the professors privately if you need help? I did that a few times when I needed to. Okay, so you're doing everything you can to do really well, and you're just not doing better than your classmates who are extremely gifted, and you need to
Hmm.
respect that they're extremely gifted. And that kind of started to flip the mindset, was to really appreciate my classmates for the hard work they put in when they were very young, and
Yeah.
that they were there for a purpose. They were there to be scientists, man. Most of them
Yeah.
weren't there to, do a quick pre-med and bounce. They were trying to like, you know, solve gravity and shit.
Yeah.
So like these kids are wicked, wicked smart.
They're fucking wicked smart and they're trying to go to
Yeah, dude.
interstellar type space.
Yeah, dude. One of my TAs was like 23 years old, and he was like studying gravity at a very high level. He went to like science high school. And these are very smart guys.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting one on one with him, and I still can't solve the equation. Like, it
Yeah.
sucked. So
Yeah.
that physics really messed me up for a while. And then I found out what I was good at. Like, somehow I was decent at calculus, and I ended up being really good at organic chemistry. And a lot of people aren't good at organic chemistry, so that was a big W for me. So once I got through that first 2 semesters at Columbia, dude, I mean, I was tore up. I was like lockjaw every day from grinding so bad at night. Like it was a disaster. I wasn't working out because why would I keep working out? It's only like nature's antidepressant, something we did every single day for 10 years. But hey,
Dude,
let me
you're
just
you're
drop that
speaking to
off
the
the
choir.
planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to pause on that because
Yeah. Sorry.
we don't fucking I don't even listen to the shit that I put out. I don't. I am absolutely stressed to the fucking max, and I worked the last 3 days till like 2-3 a.m. You think I have time for the gym? I tell myself, and you tell
Yep.
yourself the same thing, and you
Yep.
have to get out of that mindset because no, I'll do it. Do it. prioritize your health, because everything you just shared, Ricky, that's something that's so intimately fresh in my mind, and so many of the people listening at home can sit there and realize that they've gone through that themselves. They've been challenged.
Yep.
They've been hit in the face as soon as they got out. Like, I'm not the best at everything. And then you continue to grind, but you don't give yourself enough grace to realize, okay, maybe the equation isn't that I need to work harder. Maybe the equation is that I need to give myself grace and go do the thing that I need, which is the gym, which is, Terry, if you're listening, I missed yesterday and the day before, but I'm going after
Sorry,
this.
Terry.
Going back to the gym. That's
my grades
my
improved,
trainer,
man.
Right. When you prioritize yourself,
Yep.
When you prioritize yourself and you actually look at the way you can, okay, I can study a little bit more, but I need to go to the gym. I need to eat. One meal a day is not going to cut it. Not drinking water is not going to cut it. And when we think about medical school and what we've been shown stereotypically is exactly what you described. The guy that burns him, the guy or girl that burns themselves out to the point where they're almost fucking dead. And you're never going to succeed in life like that. Like, and I'm speaking to myself so I can listen to this episode when I publish it, because I need it to be reaffirmed in my head.
Yeah, dude. In medicine, so is business, but medicine's infinite. And, that's another thing we talked a lot about our scholars about. So anybody listening, I don't care if you're trying to be a doctor, you're trying to be next, you're trying to be the next Zuckerberg or whatever the hell it is, or MBA, don't care. You can study forever. You can work forever. And still, there's a limit. There's a limit to everything. And the other thing that we really suck at is we're so used to a workout being so structured and almost perfect that we'd rather just not. We would see a window of 5 to 10 minutes. And this is me. And we have to do this a lot in medical school. You have to accept a 10-minute workout window sometimes. Dude, that 10 minutes of push-ups, Stairmaster, jump rope, weighted jump rope, any flavor, that 10 minutes will be an exponent in your mental health, like a crazy exponent in your mental health and your performance and your relationships, and the list goes on. And that's really hard for us to accept because we're so used to having these really great workout programs, putting an hour and a half into it, having the supplements matching it and doing the right thing. And like, hey, you could just
I feel like you were spying on me,
push-ups.
Ricky. I feel like you've been spying on me.
Spying on myself, dude. Spying on myself and the nonprofit.
Yeah,
all of our guys have gone through it, and it's so funny because they don't want to admit it. They don't admit it, and it's finally like one of our guys will like bring it up in the chat in our Signal chat and be like, "Hey, I've been doing like 3 days a week of 15-minute Stairmaster, and I kind of hate myself." And then everybody would be like, "Yo, I've been doing treadmill walks while I do my videos. I get on the concept row bike and I watch my, I do my flashcards." And then you get all the guys finally admitting to being like, "Oh, it's cool. It's okay." So then me being the data nerd, I come back and I go, "Hey man, here's studies. Like here's like Andy Galpin's podcast episode on it. Here's the neuroscientist who's really smart. We're Allison Brager is one of our board members, sleep neuroscientist. Yeah, you know about her. She's amazing. Here's Allison's screenshot, like 3 days a week, this level of intensity, we'll do this for cognition and health. 4 days a week at this level of intensity, we'll do this." And it's not a lot. It is so small.
Send that to me, Ricky. I need that.
I got you, fam. Like white matter density improvement, cognition, what the ceiling is. It is so little effort, but we're so used to going for the power clean max, muscle ups, the CrossFit competition stuff, the sled pulls with a rock on. It doesn't have to be all that at this stage of your life.
Yeah.
At this stage.
Dude, you're speaking, and I freely admit I have failed this week. I have absolutely failed. And it's those reminders that, like, dude, you're obsessed with this dream and you want to launch it and you want it to be successful. So of course you are fucking staying up till 2, 3 in the morning, and everything tells you that the moment that you wake up, you got to go straight into it, dude. Just the greatest thing I did for myself today was start my day off with at least doing my prayer, drinking my coffee, and not diving right back in, because you can start creating this loop. And anybody listening, like if you're going to go into medical school or chase an entrepreneurial endeavor, you're going to have those days where you got to stay up late. I'm not going to say you can't and that you shouldn't. It's your dream. It's your passion. You got to do it. But
Absolutely.
what Ricky just said is so fucking true. And it's a personal check. And I am so grateful that God sent you today to remind me
Appreciate
that
that.
if you got 15 minutes, don't just say, well, fuck, I can't get because that's instantly what I will do.
Same.
I'm behind
Same.
the gun. I can't eat. I can't drink water. I can't even get my workout in. You had 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes that you can listen to a voice memo, read emails where you're doing the treadmill, where you're doing the bike, where you're doing the row machine. Prioritize yourself. Like you or if you have a wife or have a little one, figure out a way to make it happen. And you will have to do it when you take on this impossible dream of becoming a doctor. That's just the
Yeah.
truth. You're going to have
And
to.
it might not be 5 days a week, man. It might be
Yeah.
3. It might be 2. But it's so worth it. It's going to make such impact. You know, one thing that's has inspired me is, you know, so I want to go into neurosurgery. The
Oh, no
neurosurgeons that
shit.
yeah,
Hell yeah, dude.
thank you, thank you. A lot of the neurosurgeons that mentor me, the residents, they work obscene hours. We all know this.
Yeah.
They all like have a really good workout schedule. And it was like very eye-opening to me. And I was like, man, you know, that person just was on call. They're an intern, so they got to the hospital like 3:30 in the morning, 4 a.m. They got off at 8, or they just got off call and it's 6 a.m. and they're going for like a little 2-mile run. Like if that dude can come off of that and hit a 2-mile run, all right, you know, I need to
Yeah.
shift my mindset a little bit. Okay, it's not a max. They're probably not running a perfect pace, man, but they got
Yeah.
it in. They got that. They flushed it out. Steve Viola, Master Chief Steve Viola, said something really great when we ran the field hospital together. Every time we onboard someone, there's plenty of oxygen. And there's no one shooting at you. Yet we treat everything like it is. And, you know, that was a big lesson learned from my Columbia professor, my organic chemistry professor, Karen Phillips. When I first met with her, she had the humility to say, you know, what'd you do before you came to Columbia? Like, you must have had some different job. You're a little bit older. And I was like, no, I was this military guy. I was a medic. And she's like, do you ever deploy? And I was like, yeah, I was overseas a couple times. And then she was like, so you did that for 8 years. So that must have been like a lot of life and death situations. I was like, yeah, yeah. She's like, so you're always planning for life and death. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And then she was like, that's how you're approaching my class. It's just a worksheet. It's just a practice test. Why don't you sit on your couch and just work through a problem, look up the answer, see what you did wrong, keep it casual. Maybe take one practice exam like it's the real deal. And I take that example, and you can apply that to all of our sectors. I think we really go out of a lot of things like it's almost life and death.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the lack of grace comes from. I think it's not, a lot of it is demanding excellence of ourselves, but what is the root cause of that demand of excellence? It was, if I don't study today, my friend can die on the battlefield. If I don't work out today, I might not be able to carry Steve, James, Bobby, whoever off the battlefield. If I don't stretch, then I might tear my ACL getting off the helo. I'm a liability combat. I'm a liability combat. I'm a liability. So we need to drop a little bit of that when we get out, hold that edge, demand the excellence. But when life and death can be life and death, let it be. And when it's not, there's no reason to burn yourself on that. And that's a really hard thing to come to.
Yeah.
And that's taken a lot of years. So like I said, I agree with you. Sometimes you got to work till 3 a.m. You're chasing your dream. You want to be an entrepreneur. That's a competition. Business is
Yeah.
competition. It's the Super Bowl every day, baby. You want to be a doctor. It's pretty crappy at a lot of times, but when it doesn't have to be, don't let it be. And then
Yeah.
no one's shooting at you, and there's a lot of oxygen. Like you're not doing suffocation drills in the pool anymore. It's not SEER school, right?
Yeah.
And what's SEER tell you? Do your utmost. So some days 10 minutes is your utmost, man. And then the next day, maybe you do have the hour. Get after it.
Yeah. It's true,
But
man. And I think who really needs to hear this is not just our guys out there transitioning, going into endeavor, but the people that are going to be following this ridiculous, impossible dream to become doctors. Like, you have to understand that this is not a sprint. It's a
no,
marathon. You're going to be in this endeavor for a while. It's going to be, you have to figure out how to have a life. And
yep.
that's what I don't think a lot of people are showing. And I've looked and dove into influencer world when it comes to like medical students. And there's a few people that show, but not a lot. It's all data focus. It's all what you need to do for schools. Like, there's not enough people saying like, you got to live a life. you have to understand that this is going to be your life, just like deployment was your life. Like you couldn't just wake up and magically it was going to be over. You're going to learn how to embrace it and adapt to it. And before we close out, I want you to give some advice to those that are listening that are now like, okay, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to dive into this. Like, what are some real structural advice for like how to approach this impossible dream? What are some things that you can give somebody like we just talked about the health aspect, the fitness aspect, but there's so much more that we can dive into. And certainly give us like your top 10, if you will.
Yeah, sure, sure. So, on your journey to become a doctor, no matter what stage you're at, I think the first thing is to understand that you're committing to lifelong learning. Um, you're going to be a medical student at one phase, a resident at the next phase, and then a fellow possibly, and then an attending. And once you're an attending, you're responsible. And the data is always changing, the science is always updating. So you always have to be reading and learning. So establish a habit of learning how to be up on the science and starting to read and challenge yourself that even though, if for the medics out there, some things we learned at SOCM, don't let go of. Other things you do need to let go of. Um, another piece of advice, especially for the SOCMs out there, is we were great proceduralists. We were very good at performing procedures. We are terrible at being diagnosticians. So while you're going through medical school, really learn to open your aperture because that's what the doctors are doing better than us. When someone comes in with a knee complaint, Stockman's will take a pride. They'll be like, oh, the doctor thought it was this, but it was obviously an ACL. And it's like, yeah, it was obviously an ACL to you because that's all we know about. They know about 15 different diagnoses and how to work through it. So open your aperture. And the other thing is, general advice on this journey is you need a support system. You need friends, and it's a part of your life. Don't let it be the whole life. So don't ruin your spousal relationship, your relationship with your children. Figure out a way to get everybody involved in the journey. Nutrition is key. Sleep is key. 1 more hour of sleep from 5 to 6 hours is more important than 1 more hour of studying from 9 to 10 hours of studying. Cut the studying, have that routine, stick to your routine, and maximize all the other aspects of your life. Have a day that you do whatever you love. I had a friend, they took exams autonomously from Friday to Monday. They could take it in that window. And he was married with 2 children. So Monday to Friday, he was switched on. He had an agreement with his spouse to be switched on. He'd go out to the bar Friday evening with his homies, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, he was always with his wife and kids. So like,
Heck
you
yeah.
just you gotta do medicine our way. It might not look like your 23-year-old classmates' way.
Yeah.
And lean on those kids because they're damn smart and they can help you out. So that's my advice.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, Ricky, if people want to apply to Soft to Som, where can they go?
Then go to our website, www.softasom.org. That's where our donation is. If anybody ever wants to talk about sponsoring us or becoming partners with us, if you're a company out there, you can email me. It's my first name, last name at softasom.org. So ricky.ditzel, softasom.org. Would love to help anybody out. You can hit us up on all the socials, DM us if you have questions, and yeah, look forward to meeting new folks and hopefully talking to some more businesses that want to partner with our mission. We can support their mission.
Heck yeah. And if you guys pause right now, go to episode description. You'll see all those links in that email list right there. Ricky, I can't thank you enough for being here, for helping build something that is absolutely needed and vital to helping our amazing medical professionals in the military and the soft world get out there and get after it and start dreaming big again, because there's no higher calling than being of service to others. And who's out there doing that? Fucking doctors. So
Heck yeah,
if you're
dude.
out there thinking and pondering what you'll do when you get out, when you're an 18 Delta or a medical professional in the soft world, give this a shot. Think about it. It's certainly going to be challenging. It's certainly going to be difficult. But you're no stranger to difficulty and selection processes. So this is built for you. It's for you.
Yep.
If you have it within you, if it's your passion and it's your calling. If not, go find something else. But if you think it could be what would make you happy in the rest of your life, and you certainly want to make a shitload of money and be that annoying guy with a nice Bugatti because you're now a fucking facial reconstruction surgeon, then please
Yeah.
apply to Soft to Som today. because I want to
Heck
live
yeah.
vicariously through you on Instagram.
I love it. Our oldest scholar is 44, so don't tell me the age is a problem.
Holy shit. There you go. It's not too late, everybody. You can do it.
Not too late.
You can do it. Ricky, thanks again for coming on, and to everybody listening, thank you for
Absolutely.
tuning in. We'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.